Okay, so are we ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good morning, ciao a tutti. My name is Ralf Oberbeck. I'm the curator of Casale Flaminia, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce Rosie McGurran and Adi Atassi. Both were selected for the Fellowship of Casale Flaminia. They are extraordinary artists because we had to find them through over 100 applications. And so I'm delighted to introduce them in our keynote. So Rosie McGurran was born in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and received her degree in fine arts from the University of Ulster in 1990. She has exhibited nationally and internationally and was a member of Queen Street Studios, Belfast in the 1990s. In 1997, she was awarded the Arts Council of Northern Ireland Fellowship to the British School of Rome. So there's a nice affinity. And the Victor Tracy Award painting. Hope I've pronounced that correct, Rosie.
Yeah.
In 2000, she relocated to the small village of Roundstown on the west coast of Ireland to research the art history of the village and the island of Inishlaken. Okay. She established a gallery and annual island residency. And guys, if you get a chance, check it out. This is an extraordinary place. So you can check it out on the internet, on our festival site. We have all the bios of the artists. So, check out Rosie's bio and link. The Inishlaken project in 2001, while exhibiting and developing her own work, she has curated many exhibitions in Ireland and abroad, while receiving awards and bursaries for her own work. Her work has taken her as far as Australia, Norway, Italy, and the US. She has an elected member of the Royal Ulster Academy in Belfast. So Rosie, we're delighted to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for asking.
Thank you. And it now gives me pleasure to introduce Adi Atassi. So Adi is a recipient of Casale Flaminia Fellowship. And unlike also Rosie, however, because we're in the pandemic, the residency with Rosie McGurran, we're rolling over. And it's quite frustrating. We keep rolling over until we can all meet again, hug again, cook together as part of the residency. Now, Adi Atassi was born in Homs in Syria in 1962, growing up in a beautiful landscapes where the colors of nature alternate dramatically under the glaring light and where history and religion coexists. It was natural for his love of art to surface. At the age of 18, he entered the University of Damascus, where he studied fine arts. Like a seagull flying to different lands, building its nest, Adi's fate brought him to Cyprus, which has provided him with his new home since 1987. His status as a foreigner has given him the loneliness an artist needs, but at the same time, the familiarity of the climate and the history of the place has given him the love and the warmth necessary for his creativity to thrive. And check out Adi's art work on the festival page. And you can see it's, I find it very difficult to keep up with Adi because he's a prolific artist, and it's just wonderful to follow him because there's always a new surprise coming up. He has held a variety of exhibitions in the annual show of the Space Studios in Nicosia, in the open studios within the walls of Nicosia, and in various exhibitions hosted by the Cyprus Chamber of Fine Arts. And he has participated in many group shows in Hungary, Greece, Turkey, Syria, Romania, Germany, and Spain. And we must also now add Italy, because Spoleto has adopted Adi. In 2006, he won first prize in the art competition for the design and creation of a work of art for the new Supreme Court building in Nicosia. So welcome, Adi. Pleasure to have you joining us and delivering the keynote.
Thank you, Ralph, for inviting. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really pleasure to be among all of you, among all these beautiful, creative people around us. Hello, Rosie, and
Hi.
it will be my pleasure now to have the keynote start our day with you.
Great. So we're now traveling, we're now traveling to Belfast with Rosie and Nicosia with Adi. Rosie and Adi will be reflecting on key moments in their lives as aspiring artists, sharing what helped them on their way to become recognized artists, which we've seen reflected in their small bio, with their work exhibited at home and abroad. So I would like to hand over the floor to Rosie and Adi.
Well, who goes first here, do we? I don't know. I mean, I start by saying that I left art college in 1992, and at that time, the art college in Belfast was a very kind of a sanctuary, I mean, there was obviously an edginess going on in Belfast because of the situation and whatever. But I mean, not whatever. I mean, it was obviously dominating absolutely everything. And 1992 was a particularly dreadful year.
Mm-hmm.
But when you went into the art college, it was like a haven. There was like, it's not that it wasn't happening, but it was certainly a place of absolutely nobody cared what religion anybody was. In fact, nobody I hung around with cared. So when you left, there were galleries, but you can imagine. There have been some very, very good galleries in Belfast, like the Fendereschi Gallery, that have stuck it out through thick and thin, and they're still exhibiting really good work. But in terms of the vibe that you get in the big city, it wasn't. I mean, or medium-sized city as we are. So I was very, very young, and I sort of drifted into community arts. Which was really good. And I painted with children. I did lots of mural paintings, not political ones. I did non-political murals all over Northern Ireland, worked in schools, worked in day centres, worked with people with all sorts of disabilities, all sorts of things. And I still was exhibiting. And then it was really 97 when I was awarded the British School at Rome. That was kind of the point where everything turned as such, and I needed to get away. In fact, I actually didn't realize how much I needed to see somewhere else until I went and saw it,
Mm-hmm.
And immediately felt really at home in Italy and just loved it. And, what a wonderful experience. And at the other end of the Viale Flaminia as well, it's where it begins, is at the Borghese Gardens there. So, and you're at the far end of it. So it's, yeah, that was just a very different world. And then I got to see, I worked with a lot of artists who were from London and were part of that sort of YBA movement. So that was, that little bubble of Belfast, and maybe occasionally dipping into work in Dublin. My horizons were kind of totally broadened to see the different world and the politic of that world, of those artists who worked in their bubble of London and that movement at that time. But I just kept doing what I was doing. So that was, for me, that was the sort of the first moment of things changing, of moving the work into somewhere with a degree of recognition and a degree of faith that, I was bestowed this wonderful opportunity. Like, it is an amazing opportunity. And I was able to go there and make the best of it. So there you go. That was my beginning point anyhow.
So sort of keeping it as a three-way dialogue, and the audience can also jump in, is in terms, so was there at that time, do you feel there was like some sort of peer pressure for the artists to migrate to London? Because you mentioned London. Like, That
No, I don't think so, because I think actually if you look at, I mean, there are a lot of Northern Ireland artists went to London, a lot of people maybe went to Dublin, a lot of people went to New York. A lot of people looked to America rather than England. But yeah, I suppose we were sort of drifting a lot, not drifting, we were working, we were doing our thing. And, you know, you mentioned Queen Street Studios. I mean, that was, Queen Street is still going, but it's not in the old building. So it's just QSS Studios. And it really is like the best place ever in Northern Ireland. It's a really good studio space. And I was, you know, I was like really young going in there, and there were artists who had been around for a while, like Jack Pakenham, who I really admired, Jerry Gleason, the late Mickey Donnelly, who was just a fantastic people, and they kind of mentored us, you know. But there was a really dynamic group of people working there at that time, and getting good shows. And one of the things about the Queen Street Studios was that the board of directors and the administrator worked really hard, that everybody's work went internationally to different exhibitions. So we showed in Las Vegas and Georgia and Kentucky and all sorts of places. So that was a good place to be. But yeah, I never felt that I wanted, when I go to London, I always think, oh, I wonder why I didn't go and live here for a while. But then when I come back, I realize that I'm kind of glad I maybe didn't, you know, but it's, you know, there are many other lives you could have had.
Yeah, you know, the reason why I'm sort of focusing in on that, because the Smart Festival is a spin-off from Smart Travel, which is a spin-off from Smart Cities. And Victor made a few comments yesterday around, you know, some cities are a good environment for artists, some are not. And even myself, I've seen some of my artist friends migrating from to Amsterdam from London, and then they migrated to Berlin. And I see we have Kirsten Maas-Albert in the audience. She's from Berlin. And this afternoon we have Jero, the photographer. He's recording from Berlin. So there are cities which seem to attract artists. And I think there's an element of sort of artists maybe becoming immigrants to find the environment where they can thrive. Can you relate to that, Rosie? Is that?
Yeah, I can see why. And also you kind of go to where your work might be purchased as well. You know, I mean, there's no point in hiding in a cupboard. And, you know, I mean, I can see and recognized, you know, there is that. And I think, you know, I mean, and London is still, you know, an amazing place that has a thriving art scene in normal times. So you can understand the draw of that and why it would be important to go there. The same in Ireland, that a lot of artists gravitate towards Dublin. But of course I did the complete opposite and gravitated towards the other side of Ireland with a very small village of about 200 people in it, you know. Instead of, you know, it's 20 years ago gravitating towards some big city where, you know, you could get a gallery contract or something like that, but I kind of did my own thing, you know. So but yeah, I understand that artists can be migrants, and I think a lot of artists go where they feel the vibe is right. And also studio space is gold. Us people can't afford studios. And you know,
of running studios. I mean, what I've come to appreciate with the residencies here at Casale is how expensive the material is for an artist. So you have like these overheads and upfront costs, and then when you create a stock of your beautiful art, right, it's a real asset, right? But it needs to be also moved. So let's go to Adi. Adi, tell me, so what were your sort of tipping points, turning points in your life where you felt that you've moved from an sort of a break from an aspiring artist to become an established artist?
Well, I can't say that I'm an established artist. I'm an artist, you know. It doesn't matter the title. The title, it has been given by others, not by me, you know.
Like me.
I mean, whoever, but the established artist, it's like a stereotype actually for me. Being an artist, it means to be creative and to be non-stop creating. It doesn't matter to create, just to experiments and looking all the time for new experiences, new materials, new techniques. You know, this is that things, I think I hold it with me while I was a child. Whatever toys I have in front of me, I have to break it out. I have to see what's going inside, what's the mechanics inside it, the pieces, taking the pieces out, putting the pieces in. And, you know, this is kind of experimenting. I was holding it from my childhood. I wasn't that talented in my childhood. I wasn't painting. I was just destroying things. And my sister, she was crying, you know, because I was all the time destroying her toys.
Mhm.
And I used to love this Lego things put together, that pieces of airplane, put them together, that boats and stuff, you know. I'd like to destroy and build, which I have this philosophy inside me during the war, I mean, my childhood. But 2010, it was my turning point where I said that life, it was giving me the second chance after I passed my cancer time. So it was my second birthday, let's say. I gave up all the responsibility I used to have in my shoulder, a job. My kids, they grows up and they become, you know, adults. So
The nest became empty.
they,
The nest became empty.
yeah, you can say so. Then I divorced with my wife. So I have no responsibility at all. The only responsibility, I start looking at myself and being full-time artist, let's say, without any other responsibilities. And the turning point as well, it was while I was doing that, I was a coffee shop painter. I was painting at coffee shops. I love being at coffee shops, again, from my childhood. So there is different coffee shops here around in Nicosia town, old town. And I used to go there for 3-4 hours, maybe 5 hours per day, sketching with people, chatting with people. You know, there is a gathering of artists, singers, and actors, and painters as well, a poet as well. I have met, you know, I was confronting with the all society levels, from the down level to the upper level, which it gives me contact, direct contact actually, with everybody. And then I had an experience with every political movement as well. From the left, I went to the anarchist, and from anarchist, I left for extreme anarchist, and then I gave up everything because I found that it does not represent me anymore. So I was looking at the things in different different eye, not a liberal eye. It's, I don't know, I call it my own philosophy. So I destroy the whole history. I destroy the anarchist ideology. I destroy the leftish ideology. And I start, okay, since I love this idea of destroying and rebuilding, I have to destroy all that. Like Sigmund Freud said, you have to kill your father in order to continue living. So I was, yeah, trying to kill and destroy all that history behind me, which it gives me whatever I am now. So I start putting the pieces all together like I used to be in my childhood, like Lego. Sometimes I create houses, sometimes I create, you know, landscapes, sometimes I create here and there, then I destroy them, and again, I rebuild something else from that rebels. So yeah, that's, and the keynotes, which is my personal, again, it is that I wasn't involved in any circle of movements, of critics or artists, you know, because among artists, we have a lot of jealousies and rumors and blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
So again, I kept myself away from all these circles to try to be as clean as I can, to have my brain clean from all these rumors and all this.
So be true to yourself. Are you saying so that you can be
Yeah,
true to yourself?
yeah.
So Adi,
And I believe that it reflects itself on my artwork.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to actually. I wanted to jump into that. My apologies, because otherwise I will forget. And I think it's an important distinction, because what I've noticed in your artwork is that you actually, what you say in terms of what you did in your childhood, destroying the toys of your sister, what you do in your artwork, you create, you destroy, and then you repair. Can you speak a little bit to that? And actually we have, I've put something on our festival page, which sort of illustrates that. So we can show that during intervals. But so it seems to me that this has carried into your artwork, you know, in terms of destroying the toys of your sister, and this is how you do some of your paintings.
Yeah, I'm doing that in my painting as well. You know, there is so many paintings you can have if you put them. If you put it under X-ray, you can see so many layers. You know, layers above a layers above a layers. And the last one, actually, the one you purchased. Do you remember I've told you about the story?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
So I will talk about this specific one, and I would like the people to know about it. I had maybe 5 months to do any goes on painting. That means 5 to 6 hours per day. So I was just, you know, doing sketches, and for me it's nothing. It means nothing because I need that, the heavy coffee, a heavy whiskey, and the heavy timing to work, to feel that I am doing, you know. So I've started a landscape on a piece of paper, and then I didn't like it at all. It was, my God, it shows that, yeah, Adi, you have 6 months, maybe 5 months to do something, you know, so forget about it. But thanks God, I didn't how to say, turn it for pieces. I just kept it aside, and then I came back and I said, okay, I have long time to use pastel color, soft pastel color. So I made then a portrait on that landscape, okay? And I said, okay, that may have something, you know. So when Ralph saw that, he was amazed of it. He was amazed of it. He said,
but it captured a moment in my life.
Yeah, it expressed all my feelings. It expressed all my experiences when I was in Africa and so
with
on.
my Kenyan family, exactly. It was like, you know, I don't believe in coincidence anymore, Adi. And so I felt like there was some energy which connected us. And so we will. In fact, now you mentioned it, I might actually show it during the intervals. So Rosie, coming back to, so thank you, Adi. We'll come back to you. So Rosie, coming back to you, there's one urgent question which I have. When I look at your work, I get mesmerized. And I think not just me, it's mesmerizing. It's like, you know, the characters, there's the sort of the magic. How do you come up? Because I don't recognize the characters in any other dimension of our world. So how do you come up with the, how do I call it, characters? How would you call it in your paintings?
You know, I would say they're characters. It's kind of, you know, I mean, as it's evolved, at the very beginning, when I was at school, I remember when I left school, I'm very clearly having an idea that I wanted to paint figures and people, and I wanted to tell stories, and I didn't want it to be like some sort of, you know, neoclassical perfection. But I hadn't really that much art history education, so I didn't know. And then I was introduced to the work of Stanley Spencer, the English artist, and that completely blew my mind in terms of his his poetic interpretation of the human figure and how he used his local environment and stories and whatever. So, I mean, really, when I look back at my work from the beginning, it wasn't trying to be him or anybody else. I was just letting my own thing filter through. And I think I've really developed that. The pictures of the people are often set in landscapes. I don't know who they are. Sometimes I do know who they are. Sometimes they look like me. Sometimes they look like somebody I know. Sometimes they look like a relative. Sometimes they're completely nobody. And I find that really interesting, that you can actually create a face and almost a being of somebody that nobody's ever seen before. You know, and that's, you know, in this two-dimensional world. So that's an interesting thing. And you can, you know, I think people can become really attached to stuff, to faces and figures and people, and following their story. And, you know, sometimes the story is ambiguous, sometimes it's very direct. And I give up all hope of in any way trying to control how people would interpret those things, because everybody interprets something they see in their own way. And at the moment, I don't know if you can see behind me, there's a wall of stuff. I mean, that's only a small amount of the sketches that I've been doing, because I'm developing new work. So the figures themselves have become lighter and more living in a sort of more of an abstract sphere as such. And I think that's because I'm in Belfast, and that they, you know, I've been living somewhere else for quite some time, and the pandemic has kind of not forced me to be here, but certainly it's a much better place for me right now to be. So it's kind of like being between two worlds as such. And yeah, so these figures here are kind of like my imaginary friends have come with me. So I'm not lonely.
To come with you to get through the pandemic? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I suppose there are lots of things to get through the pandemic. I think work is the most important thing for me, and actually being in the studio and not seeing anybody is quite normal, you know. So there's some days you don't feel in any way indisposed by it, and then there are some days when you sort of feel that there are things you'd like to do. At the moment here in Belfast, we can't really drive out to the nearest beach for a swim, and I know everybody say, oh my God, it's February, but it's something I find very, very good for in general. You know, we have a 10-mile radius limit on us right now. We can't go anywhere, but that's fine. I'd rather play by the rules than not. You know, I'd rather just stick to the rules and, you know, stay at home and get on with it. But yeah, it's the lockdown thing. It's interesting, but yeah, it's like carrying a theatrical troupe with you, you know, of these people and the figures. And, you know, some people want to go on stage and they'll just appear out of nowhere. And I do sort of, I don't sit around daydreaming. You know, they're quite specific, quite specifically thought out, you know. So some of them, and a lot of them would have references to perceptions of women's demeanor in history, in art history and in general history, and, you know, the costumes that they wear would be a reference to all sorts of things like that.
Rosie, as a Brit, I was interested in what you said earlier when you were introducing yourself and giving some background to your artwork, about the fact that when you were in college, or I think it's a college or art studio or something in Belfast, and you felt that was a sort of a sanctuary to escape from, which I always found a bit of a bizarre title, the Troubles in Ireland. But one of the things that the Brits sort of put on it to make it sound less warlike, I suppose.
Yeah.
The Troubles.
Sorry for your trouble.
Yeah, the Troubles.
Yeah, sorry, I blew your leg off earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wondered how the Troubles, in inverted commas, impacted upon your early artwork, or if it still impacts upon your artwork.
I think the fantasy world kind of answers your question, doesn't it? I don't see myself as a Troubles artist. I was born in 1969, and you know, the very beginning of it. But I don't see myself as a Troubles artist. But I think the impact it's had on my work is to make me create. You know, Eddie was saying there about his childhood stuff and about breaking up toys and all. Create a sort of a sanctuary, not a childlike or naive sanctuary, but create something in your imagination where you have complete control over that world, Whereas the world I grew up in, not that I grew up in any major hardship or difficulty with it. I mean, everybody in Northern Ireland is affected. Everybody's seen something or experienced something, but you know, I suppose it's the brutality of it that you start to understand as you get older. But I have never felt the need to really discuss that in any major way with my work. But as I say, the way it's affected it is the outcome is to, you know, create this parallel universe, as to say, without sounding like an agent, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Graham.
So in the audience, feel free to jump in. There's one thing which is the theme of the keynote, and maybe now is the right time to ask. Really, I was going to ask you towards the end, but you know, we are fluid because we can come back to both of you. But I would like to ask, what advice would you give to young aspiring artists? Because I see Ingrid Christensen is in the audience, and she keeps reminding me that, Ralph, we are all artists. You know, we just have to unlock it, and Ingrid helps us to unlock and find our creativity inside us. So given that we are all artists, and we might want to, yeah, we're holding down day jobs, but you know, we want to move into our creativity space. What advice would you give to young aspiring artists? And maybe Adi, you start first, or Rosie, you can work it out between the two of you.
No, Adi, work away there.
I believe that we all born with what it called creative mind, all right? But if I will bring it as a sample, let's imagine a round cake, okay? So we, with one triangle, small one, this is our talent. Everybody have them, okay? But the rest of it is hardworking. Hardworking, it makes the artist to be different, to have his own voice, his own character. Otherwise, everybody will look the same if they will keep working only with that small triangle, which we call it talent, without hard working. That's how I believe. Rosie, what do you think?
Yeah, I do. I agree that everybody has something in them and whatever. And I do think there are lots of reasons why, you know, there'll be lots of socioeconomic reasons why people don't get the chance to create, or, you know, there are all sorts of things, and there are lots of reasons why people do. And the advice I would give to any younger person who was thinking of a career as an artist and whose parents were saying, don't even dare. We are living in a world now you can do anything, and a lot of people have, you know, maybe 2 or 3 different qualifications and multitask and can have 3 or 4 different ways of making an income. And I think the worst thing you can ever do is to stop an artist and for an artist to stop themselves. And I think it's really important that you follow that and make things when you can. But if you do want to do it as a job, I think it's like anything else, just jump in and do it. Try something, no matter how small. And that even happens when you're a professional artist. Sometimes you have everything stripped away from you and you have to start literally again. And I always think you start with a very small circle around yourself, and then those things take on different roles and, you know, ripple out into something else. So yeah, it's just to be positive and do what you can. But as a young person starting out, I don't think there's any reason why you shouldn't try, you know.
And Rosie, so
please, I would like to add something.
Yes, Adi, please.
Please try to be away from the words which confused so many artists around the world. Actually, they call it inspiration. So if I'm not inspired, I'm not going to work. No, it does not work like that. Inspiration will come to you while you are working, because while you are doing, then so many ideas and doors it will open in your mind. Then inspiration will find you.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
So never say
Wait
that.
for the inspiration.
Yeah, I'm doing nothing. I'm just waiting for my inspiration. No, inspiration will never come to find you in this way.
Wow.
It's not looking for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to. Yeah. It has to find you, right? And actually, you said something great, because it's quite really pragmatic. Basically, what you're saying: get out of bed and just do it.
Yeah,
Right?
no,
Don't
I
stay
mean,
in bed and
nobody
just
will
go
care
about-
if you don't,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Well,
And also-
there's one thing which I want to ask, actually, just very selfishly, okay? So you refer to young artists, but what about, you know, old artists, well, old guys like me who dropped out of corporate environment, right? And who are sort of, you know, completely lost, and now, you know, looking for some creativity inside myself. What kind of advice would you give to someone like myself? Well, I've been sort of holding down day jobs and, you know, corporate, and, you know, trying to do what I thought I needed to do. Because there's one thing which I want to say is and this is actually Ingrid reminded me also, we are becoming experts in everything we do. It doesn't matter. We all become experts. And then we're becoming too good at what we're doing because now we're experts. So that by doing that, we're giving up our dreams. Because I'm an expert, I have to stay within my comfort zone, right? And we're giving up our dreams. So what advice would you give to someone like me, who has sort of given up his dreams because I'm conditioned through corporate environment to unlock my creativity?
You just mentioned it, dear Ralph. Your comfortable zone, it will kill all this initiative mind, which I don't believe it kills it inside you, because I can see the results throughout this festival, which you gave a lot of effort. And whatever efforts you have done in Kenya throughout your brother, that place, bless his soul, in Kenya. But being in a comfortable zone, it like said, okay, I'm retiring, I'm going for fishing, and that's all. I'm just enjoying my time, just sitting there, waiting my fish to be caught. No, no, no. This will kill the creative mind in any humankind, I believe. Just experimenting, getting out of the box, out of the comfortable zone, and start looking again and again and again. You know, you may find in this comfortable zone a small diamond, but the biggest one is waiting for you out there, I believe.
Can I piggyback on that?
And Melissa, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, I want to piggyback on that because, and this is something, Ralph, you and I have talked about quite a bit in terms of comfort zone, and I'm definitely very, very guilty of it. I would say, as somebody who is a writer creatively, but then who often can't teach that, I have to teach things like technical writing to advanced military officers, which fine, great, but it's boring as hell. But my point is, you know, it's been absolutely, it started out rewarding, this career and being on that path. It started that way, especially with, you know, students and just being a part of their journey. But unfortunately, the truth is it's turned into something that has been absolutely soul destroying, for me particularly. I knew something was really bad a couple of years ago, but when, for example, the university started referring to my students as customers, that's when I was like, oh, hell no. You know, it's, and then, you know, you have little choice in things and all of that. And so knowing that, I was sort of immersed in grading all the time and other people's work and their words in my head, and not being able to literally have the time, because I'm so exhausted thinking about hundreds of students and their writing, that spark is still in me, but yet it has nowhere to go except to talk about technical writing, you know. And so I'm definitely, as a creative and as somebody who's been in academia for 16 years now, I sort of realized it the hard way, and I'm realizing it the hard way, and I'm at a crossroads right now in that career, where I'm not going to sign another contract with this university or any other university, because it just simply isn't what it was, and I'm not at that point anymore. And so I'm just saying, you know,
so that's you pushing yourself outside your comfort zone now.
Yeah, and just sort of letting the ego go, right? Because, and I think that's part of it with me as well. I think I can teach in different ways, like for example with our residency. And that's the part that I love. That's the part that I enjoy. Yeah, and there's no room for that in academia anymore. There's not. In fact, the president of my university is actually in the Huffington Post quoted as saying, "We don't want our faculty teaching in the classroom." The adjunct faculty is what they were saying. And we were like, wait, what? So we had no academic freedom, no nothing. We had to sort of stick by this, prescription of what non-subject matter experts were telling us to teach, which half of it was wrong. The other half was, just like completely not updated to, scholarship. So the point of all of that is to say, when I think of young people who I write for, who I adore, who I love mentoring, and then I think of, creatives and somebody who's been creative my whole life, it never felt safe to pursue art as a career. It didn't feel safe because, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. So for me, it was like, no, go to school, then go to graduate school. I went to law school before all this. The plan was to be a trial lawyer. But it was always safety, safety, safety. And what happened was it ended up being absolutely soul crushing. And some of my best friends are literally working in corporate law, criminal law, and they're doing 70 hours a week and they're absolutely miserable. Ralph, Emily from our first residency.
Yes.
She's a patent lawyer and she's miserable.
So Mel, I think you're making an important distinction here, and I would like to take this back to Rosie and Adi. Is because when I watch Adi's journey, and I think this is also true for Rosie, you found yourself very early in your life as an artist, and would that be a true assumption? Whereas
me.
Well, no, yes, I'm going actually, let me go to you, Rosie. So what Mel is saying, I think is an important distinction, because I think what we're looking also for artists now is to sympathize with us, where we haven't gone to, we were not nurtured, or maybe even, we didn't have those maybe childhood traumas, which turned us into an artist very early on in our life. So now we're stuck in this being conditioned in a corporate environment or an academic environment, and we feel like we're imprisoned, and it doesn't allow us to unlock our creativity. I'm just sort of playing up now. But what advice, would you give sort of to, potential artists who feel like we're trapped in a day job, or we're trapped, which doesn't really help us to unlock our artistic creativity?
I suppose it's to make time for yourself. Obviously a lot of people are trapped because they've got no choice financially, and that's just it. And, I think it's to make some time for yourself at some stage and go somewhere, join a class if you can. We've all this stuff on our computers now that we can do. I would just say that if it's something that's causing you anxiety in your life to not be able to create, then you have to take very small steps to get to the place where you will be able to, but not everybody can just jump, But I say to you, Ralph, actually, you were saying about advice for you. I think you're well on your way, because in fact, organizing this and organizing the residency and your outreach to other artists and putting people together is an incredible creative thing that you've done, and I think you need to be applauded for that. And you know, it's a creative thing that it's a creative movement that you've, you know, started this festival, and it's been really interesting all weekend. And you know, that's a creativity in itself, that outside of maybe other things.
It's interesting you say that, Rosie, because what I'm actually doing is, and Victor is in the audience, well, he delivered the keynote yesterday. He's actually, the festival is a spin-off of his conference, which we then turned into a festival. So what I've actually done is I've taken Victor's blueprint and adapted it to bring the artist community together, co-creating with each other. So, so what I'm saying is, when you say that this is creative, the way it occurs to me is that I'm really just following Victor's blueprint. So
yeah, but that's very well. But you actually, you did it then. You have made contact with Victor, and you decided to do that other than not do it. So, you know, in the sense that you've created something by doing it, and that will be, you know, then moves into your sphere and becomes part of what you do, because what you do is going to be different from everybody else. So.
Which Adi said earlier, and actually what I think I get out of this is that there is no excuse for anyone, because we, just like you said, Rosie, just, you know, do it, make time, because also Adi said, don't wait for the inspiration or aspiration to come to you. Well, it will find you eventually, but you actually have to get out of bed, or you have to make time, right? And so I think, and the way actually maybe I can share this with the audience, what I actually have done in my life, I have substituted the word but with and. So for example, when I say, I would like to go for a run, but it's raining, I'm speaking myself into, oh, I'm not going for a run. But if I say, well, I would like to go for a run and it's raining, well, yes, I can still go for a run. I can be with the elements. I can enjoy.
That's brilliant. That's really good. I have to remember that.
So
yeah, I like that. I like that, Ralph.
We need that on t-shirts, Ralph.
Sorry, Graham?
We need that on t-shirts.
Well, I would go back to this the question we've talked about before. What it leads us to the comfortable zone that makes us safe, you know? That means I am safe now, economically, socially, politically, artistically, whatever, okay? So this feeling will keep you calm and still, all right? You are not moving. So I like this to tell that if your right hand starts doing the same things, because our hand, they have memories, either writing, either painting, either playing music, they have their own memories. If your right hand start consuming and repeating itself, stop using it, start using your left hand. Okay, where your left hand, it doesn't have that memory yet. So in this case, you just kick yourself out of the comfortable zone. All right. But when we reach the comfortable zone, actually, again, it throw out so many experiences, accumulation of experiences. Okay. And we can use this experience, but in this time, I think we can choose the less dangerous path in order not to have injuries like we used to before, you know, because we become wiser. And sometimes wise men or wise women, they're very dangerous anyway.
I noticed that Ingrid has had a hand up for quite some time.
Yes, Graham, thank you for reminding me. Ingrid, please jump on.
Hi, everyone. I was just thinking, like, with the pandemic and that this year, I've seen a lot of people get involved in art that they never have been before. There's been a lot of groups that have been popped up that are actually free that people can do. and get involved in for just dabbling even in art and having a different experience. Sky TV does a portrait artist of the week.
Yeah,
you can go and do. I mean, that's been quite good. I've only seen one. I was thinking when back in, was it October, November, we were going into another lockdown here in Italy, and I put a message out to all my friends, and I said, I'm thinking I need to take up some hobbies, just to keep myself busy. And what do people suggest? And one of my friends suggested, she was part of a WhatsApp group that has a theme each day, and we're also doing the Portrait Artist of the Week. And I ended up joining that group, and I wouldn't say I've been prolific, I've been doing quite a bit of drawing and painting and portraits. We drew ourselves when that series finished, and that's just restarted again. But a lot of people are getting involved and trying things that they haven't done before. I've got a friend that she liked painting and stuff when she was a kid and never had until this year. And people are having the confidence to join these types of groups and actually explore their own creativity in a safe environment. And similar things with writing groups, where people can actually be a part of a group, feel like they've got that support behind them, which maybe they didn't have 20, 30 years ago when they thought, oh, it'd be cool to be an artist, and the parents said, no, you must, go and grow potatoes or whatever it was that their family expected you to do in terms of being normal. So
that's an
come out of
that's an important distinction, Ingrid, I think, because we can also look for we can turn breakdowns into breakthroughs, like the pandemic. And I think rather than just complaining about the pandemic, and I think Rosie said it also earlier, there's no excuse. We can always find our creativity, and we will just adapt and work with the situation rather than become a revolutionary and fight the situation. Not that I love to create a revolution. I love to create lots of revolutions, right? But what I would say is I'm conscious of time, because we will be traveling to Kenya. And I think we need to get back track on time with the writers session, which Melissa Felix, curator of Casale Flaminia writing residencies. So we have about 5 more minutes to wrap up. And so in terms of final, let me just check actually timing so that I get this. Yeah. So maybe I would just hand it back to Adi and Rosie to bring this to conclusion within the next five minutes.
Well, I don't know. I mean, this is great to the platform that we have here to be able to chat and to meet other people, because I was very much looking forward to going to the residency last year. And I think that what the pandemic has done for a lot of things and for a lot of people, well, particularly from my own point of view, which is the only one I can speak from with any degree of confidence, that I think it'll be all the richer for the fact that we've had to wait for it. And hopefully if you can have the group at some stage in the future, that'll be wonderful. And I think it'll be just enjoyed even more, and even more creativity, because everything has kind of gone into hyper mode, and that, even the smallest, for me, the smallest thing that I do becomes really important, because I've got the time to actually sit down and examine it. So yeah, we are living in incredibly interesting times, and hopefully we're on the approach to leaving this current phase of the pandemic, which I believe will probably, the whole thing will just be in and out, like the hokey cokey for quite some time. And we'll just have to get on with it. So yeah, hopefully we'll all meet in person. And yeah, thank you very much for having me to speak today. And anybody wants to chat,
it's
far
not
away on private messages and whatever. So,
it's
right in my face. Right?
yeah, it's a real honor. And like you said, I think and actually Vito gave me a chance to speak at his conference, Smart Travel. And I actually was able to present the Spoleto arts community in terms of smart destination, take it into the residency. And what I said was that it is the artists who are keeping up our spirit until we can all hug each other again, cook together again, co-create, laugh. And this is important. And this is why we keep rolling over the residency, because we are basically waiting for the recipient of the residencies for us to get together here in Spoleto so that we can do the things which we need to do. We need to, be together, laugh together, cook together, and just like you do on the island, right, with your residents. So you find yourself in the same situation, and and we just have to look at the light at the end of the tunnel, and we will get there. So Adi, final remarks.
Ralph, I would like to tell something before we finish this things, that creativity, it has so many channels, okay? It doesn't have to do with writing or with music or with painting, sculpturing, cinema, whatever. It has so many channels, okay? So you choose your own channels, and again, be sure it is a creative one. So I'm really proud of it, proud of you that you choose this and you put all your effort to gather all these beautiful people together.
Well, I'm proud of us co-creating, exactly. I think we have to acknowledge the smart community of artists co-creating together, and hopefully this will give us a lift, an uplift, helping each other to get through the pandemic, Adi. Yes, and like I said, here at the Casale, because I see this in Italy, we're all trying to adapt. Governments are coming with regulations which are just crazy, but we're actually doing what Rosie is saying. Right? What I'm seeing is the hotels, the restaurants who survive are the ones who are not creating a revolution. They're the ones who are saying, okay, I don't like the rules, but we need to adapt so that we can continue to do what our calling is. And I think this is what we're basically doing. And I think the arts community has really helped us to keep up our spirit because we're under complete shutdown. and we will find a way out together. So I acknowledge smart arts community, helping each other to get through this. So guys, thank you very much. I think that for me, this has been very enlightening. I was really looking forward to the keynote, and let's take a small break, and then we will travel to Kenya to listen to some gospel singing, and today is Sunday, which is, I think, quite relevant. Okay, so thank you very much, and see you in a bit. Yeah, ciao.